This thing is a blast. Woohoo! Well, it's middle of February, and I probably should be using this thing, but it's 60 degrees out, so we're playing with the Cobra today. Just got back from putting some fuel in this thing, getting some more break-in miles on the motor. This thing is running absolutely perfect. It sounds awesome. All the vitals are good. I mean, even though it's dirty, maybe it's the paint protection film I put on the side here. Also, everyone asks about this. It's just multi-surface protection film. You get it at Lowe's. Anyways, I think it was getting some funny looks around town, but the car just looks terrible. I mean, I have not touched this thing on the outside since I bought it, and it sat for 2 years before I bought it. So I'm gonna take advantage of that, and we're gonna give it a wash today. The exterior transformation starts now. I mean, I think a wash even is gonna do absolute wonders for this thing. And then I'm gonna pull it in. We got some more goodies for this thing, and we'll just see where the video goes from there. I'm not entirely sure, but for now, let's enjoy the weather, get this thing washed up, finally give this exterior the love that it deserves. Let's see what that beautiful Sonic blue paint looks like under years of dust and dirt. Already got the truck washed up. Let's see if we can't give the Cobra some love. Good morning, guys. It is the next day here. Yesterday, I took the Cobra for a cruise. It was a beautiful Saturday here in New Hampshire in February. We were blessed with some almost 60-degree weather. No-brainer to take the Cobra out, put some miles on it, continue braking in the motor, continue braking in the clutch. Also gave this thing its first wash in probably 3+ years. And I mean, what a transformation already. Just getting the dust and dirt off this thing, blowing out all the crap out in the trunk liner. I even used my new Amazon attachment and kind of power washed the bottom. Came out really good, but there's still a lot of work to do on this exterior. In the last video, we completely transformed the interior of this car. In this video, we're gonna get started on the same thing, but on the exterior. And I think I'm gonna start right up here in the front. I got a whole front end transformation. I got kind of marinating up in the old noggin here. So let's get this thing up in the air, start tearing the front end apart, and we'll just kind of go from there. I'll show you guys what I got in store for this thing. I'm excited! Woo! Also got the spare tire cover in the trunk all cleaned up, and some parts you guys haven't seen yet. The panels that go on the sides of the trunk as well, gave those a quick clean as well. And we'll talk more about this stuff in a little bit. All right, little buddy. I think it might be time for you to hang out elsewhere. Put you in the glove box at some point soon. So I got the car up in the air a little bit, so it's a little bit easier to see the front end, and we can talk about some of the things that I'm gonna wanna do here. Right off the bat, headlights, these things are in okay shape. They're not the original ones. Even though they kind of look similar, they're tinted. And I've never been a fan of tinted headlights really on anything. These ones aren't too dark, so it's not too bad, but got something for those. So I'm gonna pop those out. We got a plan for our little snake in the grill here. You can see this area behind the snake is very faded, just looks kind of dingy. Gonna do something about that. Down here, you guys can see the factory heat exchanger back there has seen better days. Not only the heat exchanger itself has been hit with 1,117 rocks, but the brackets themselves are rusty. And this is really common on even low mileage, like Southern cars. I don't know what Ford used for steel for those brackets, but they always rust and they just kind of look dingy behind the bumper. So I got a plan for that. Same thing with the fog light bezels. These things are, they could use a refinish. There's two different color fog light bulbs in there, so we'll have to take care of that. At least I think. Last time I turned on the lights here. There we go. Yeah, one's blue, one's bright white. Looks like someone put clear corner markers in there. I wonder if they're switchbacks. They are switchbacks. You can see it in the reflection of my old Cobra over there. So yeah, that's on the list. Some lighting stuff. And also, this is really common on these cars because they're so low. The front splitter, chin spoiler, whatever you want to call it, is really chewed up, kind of deformed in a couple areas. Just got tons and tons of scratches from being bottomed out, probably hundreds of times, both forwards and backwards, probably in and out of driveways. So I got a plan to attempt to refinish that as well. So basically got a lot of stuff here on the front end I want to do, and that's going to start with, I think, removing the headlights, removing the bumper, getting some of this stuff blown apart. So yeah, let's start with that. Let's get to work, get the bumper off. Working fast tonight, boys. I already got the front end pretty much completely blown apart. Front bumpers on the body stand, exposing all of the, intercooler or heat exchangers and grills and everything we needed to get access to. Kind of interesting, the front bumper foam reinforcement bar had painter's tape on it. So I assume that's from maybe some previous bodywork. Who knows? This stuff is really, really brittle. Clearly been here a long time, but just kind of interesting. Crash bar is original. Like I said when I bought the car, I don't think it's ever been hit hard. I think this front bumper has been repainted at one point, so probably the bumper came off because of a little scuff or something. But, the foam, I just had to drill out the rivets. So we know that the foam, as far as I know, is original, never been off the car. So likely something very light. Got our tinted headlights out, fog lights out and unplugged. Got our fog light bezels and grill over here on the workbench. And the plan is to refinish the grill insert, the fog light bezels, and the chin spoiler using this SEM trim black paint. I absolutely love this stuff. It just replicates the actual OEM trim color of just about anything really well. But before we do that, we've got a bunch of prep work to do on this chin spoiler. And you can get new chin spoilers for like $200, but they're aftermarket. Fitment is iffy. They come folded up in a box. And, I just want to see if I can save this original Ford 0304 Cobra chin spoiler. I think if you get it from the dealer, they're not even available anymore, but when you could, they were like $500. So basically, I'm going to see if I can sand this thing down and refinish it with that paint. But, and that's going to require a decent amount of work to get this smooth, but anything's going to look better than how this does right now. This thing is just trashed. So I think first what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my heat gun fired up. I'm going to see if I can get some of these waves out, where this thing was pulled and stretched plastically beyond its, point of return, and see if we can straighten it out on the bumper a little bit. Then I'll probably remove it from the bumper and then start bodyworking this. I might even have to use a little bit of, filler or epoxy in some of these bigger gouges. Yikes. But other than that, I think we can get this thing to look a lot better. It is low on the car and, sometimes hard to notice, but you guys like me with, high functioning OCD, we'll call it, this bothers me. Over here on the bench, you guys already saw the goodies I got for this thing. This is a brand new aftermarket heat exchanger to replace the factory one on there. There's nothing terribly wrong with the factory one, but as it just looks ratty right now. And I started thinking back to my Cobra days like 10, 12 years ago, where some guys were putting like an eBay heat exchanger on the car. You can buy, really nice aftermarket ones from like AFCO or, there's a couple, Lightning Force Performance, I think, makes them, but they're like literally $600, $700, $800 for the aftermarket one, which is a little bit above the budget that I like to spend on this thing. So I started revisiting the stuff that I had researched, all those years ago. And that basically came down to this, which was the equivalent of a CX Racing, 24, I think, by 8 by 3 or 2.5 heat exchanger. It's really simple. It's just an air-to-water heat exchanger. I think instead of getting it from CX Racing, I think they're made actually by this company, GPI Performance or something. I'll leave the link in the description. But this was $100 shipped to my door. And yeah, there's guys who, back in the day installed these and saw a significant reduction in intake air temps over the factory Garrett heat exchanger, which in this case is just, she's had it. And, I can't have that thing behind our bumper here. It looks terrible. So if we can improve the looks, improve intake air temps, that's a win-win for me. The downfall of spending $100 instead of $800 is this is not a bolt-in operation. What you see is what you get. This is obviously a universal heat exchanger. It comes with some little brackets, welded to the side, but it is not going to just bolt right in here. Additionally, you'll notice the inlet and outlet are on opposite sides. This is a dual pass heat exchanger, by the way, so again, should improve our IATs. But anyways, the inlet and outlet on the factory one are on the back on opposing sides down there. So gonna have to get a little creative with not only mounting it, but getting the lines right as well. Also, one more thing, my intercooler overflow tank that I painstakingly restored this trim ring here has been leaking. I think I pointed to that in the B-roll footage earlier. And I think it's this gasket that goes around these 12 bolts that completely sucked to get tight. So luckily for me, I get to undo all those bolts and redo it.
Wow, this has just been such a pleasure. I'm such a lucky boy. I can't wait to go home
and put in a new gasket, which I found online for $9. Just a universal 12-bolt, fuel cell gasket. And I figured what better time to do that than when we have to have the system empty to put in our new heat exchanger. So that's where we're at. I think I'd like to start with the chin spoiler, maybe start getting that prepped and ready for paint. And then we'll just see how far we get as far as getting this heat exchanger mounted, get some brackets going, and just see what we figure out. I'm just gonna wing it, just like usual. So let's get back to work. Well, somehow we ended up doing body work again. Always doing body work, but we're making progress. I have to apologize, the heater's on. I'm trying to keep it a reasonable temperature in here so I can do some painting, but spent some time on the front splitter here, just about as much time as I'm willing to anyways. Started with the heat gun, like I said, tried to get out most of the major damage and pulls and ripples and things like that. Then I noticed there was a lot of pretty severe, chunks out of this thing. So I came through with some plastic epoxy, filled those in, let that cure overnight. It's actually the next day. And then came back through here, sanded with, I think, 180, then 240 over the whole thing. And I think we're feeling pretty smooth. Like I said, just about as much effort as I'm going to put into restoring this thing. It's never going to be perfect. It's too far gone, but filled in a lot of these divots, a couple low spots, and then basically smoothed the whole thing out, try to remove as many scratches as I could, and I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. Even just a coat of paint on this thing would have done wonders, but tried to smooth it out a little bit. Tried to bend back a couple of the mounting brackets to try and get it to fit tighter against the bumper, but we'll see. No real cost other than time into this thing so far, so if we can bring back an OEM chin spoiler, I'm okay with that. So we're gonna get a first coat of paint on these in a few minutes. The bezels and the grill don't really need any prep other than cleaning, so we'll get to those in a second. Got the heat exchanger removed and the system drained. Got them over here on the bench, so here's the factory original one in all of its rusty, Titanic looking glory. I was wondering if this thing might have even been leaking. I can't tell because I did wash the car the other day, so maybe it was just leftover water, but there was a wet spot down here that's now gone now that the system is empty. But Either way, we couldn't have this nasty old thing on the car. So here, I mean, look at the size comparison. Should provide definitely some additional cooling, hopefully lower our IATs a little bit. And if nothing else, it's just gonna look much meaner at the front of the car. Found some scrap steel that I think I'm gonna use for the mounting brackets. This is actually a piece of scrap steel I think I used earlier in the series to hold the flywheel while I got that front crank pulley off of the car, which is torqued to like 457,000 foot-pounds, newton meters, whatever. It's on there, and this thing held the crank. It's a nice like C-channel piece of steel. Just chucked it up in the bandsaw real quick, got, you know, some quick measurements, and I think what I'm gonna do is basically mount this to the crash bar, and then we'll drill a few holes through the intercooler here, or heat exchanger rather, and we'll be able to through bolt it from either side. And the way I'm gonna attach these to the crash bar is over here. I'm gonna use my riv nut tool. I found some all matching hardware, which is rare in my hardware assembly here. These are OEM M6 bolts that I've collected from various GM projects over the years. So, you know, it's a high quality fastener. I've got a ton of them. I never throw this stuff away, exactly for situations like this, because now we can reuse these. I'm gonna use 4 riv nuts, 2 per side, get those into the crash bar. Then we'll be able to secure the brackets using these bolts, and then we can through bolt the heat exchanger to the brackets using this hardware, some stainless washers, and some stainless locking nuts. So I think that'll be a nice clean way to mount this to the bumper that's professional and also still removable if we need to. So that's the plan right now. And yeah, so I think what I'm gonna do is paint these things outside so I don't get black paint everywhere. Good news is it's like 25 degrees out as usual, so yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is I've kept them in here, kept them warm. I'll do a coat of paint, move it back inside, dry, do another coat of paint, so on and so forth. And then between coats, we can start getting this heat exchanger bracket mounted up. Oh yeah, as far as the lines are concerned, dug through my radiator hose bin there. I actually think these are off of the 2010 Camaro LS3 that I robbed for my 1969 Camaro. I believe these like drape over the intake manifold like heater core lines or something. I saved them, and they've got like this perfect 90 degree or almost 180 degree bend, which I think is going to be perfect for getting us to the side ports here as opposed to the rear ports on the factory one. Picked up a couple 3/4 inch barbs as well, so I think we'll be able to figure out a way to get these lines to work, brackets to work that I just dug out of the scrap steel pile. That's what it's all about, man. I know I'm kind of a neat guy. I don't really like to have clutter around, but at the same time, despite me wanting to throw this away, this is something that, like, you know, I force myself to save, and at times like this, it's like, man, I'm really glad I did. So if you can deal with it, don't throw stuff away, because sometimes it'll come in handy. If you can find it, you know, you got to dig through piles of stuff, but if you can find it, it's going to come in handy. All right, let's keep going. Let's get some paint on these things, start getting this thing mounted up, and just keep pushing forward. Damn, looks like we got some brand new parts right over here. Oh wait, they're 20 years old, but man, do they look good. So just a little bit of the SEM trim paint, couple coats, and the fog light bezels and the center grill part here look brand new. The bezels have some rock chips in them that, you know, in the right lighting, you can still kind of see it, but I mean, they're not like faded gray anymore. They look great. Night and day with just a little bit of paint. This thing looks absolutely perfect. Quick note, guys, when you're spraying SEM trim black, I've noticed that when it first goes down, maybe it's just because it's cold right now, but when it goes down, it kind of looks splotchy and it looks terrible. You just gotta be patient, and once it dries, it levels out and looks absolutely perfect. It totally matches the trim color in most cars. I used it for the bezel in the 69 Camaro for the Holley 12.3 inch dash. It matched perfectly. Nice satin factory finish. So those parts came out awesome. The front lip came out about as good as we can get it, as good as we can expect. This thing was absolutely hammered. I did my best to sand it, smooth it out, filled in the divots, and gave it a bunch of coats of paint. So, you know, from 5 feet away, it looks perfect, which is fine because, you know, unless you're a midget, even if you're standing right at the car, you're always going to be at least 5 feet away from it. But if you get up close, I mean, there's some pretty good, you know, that was a good hit right there. Thankfully, that's in the bottom, so you won't really see it. But it smoothed out okay. I mean, it's definitely not perfect, but, you know, this thing was absolutely hammered. I think the important thing is it's now one solid color. It looks nice and satin and black. I mean, if you get right up on it, you know, yeah, some of this stuff is pretty beat up. And you know, if it bothers me once it's on the car, I'll just look for a replacement one. Hopefully find one that's maybe not $500. But already, you know, night and day compared to what came off the car. A little bit smoother, one color, fresh coat of paint. That's good enough for me. Made some serious progress on the heat exchanger. Got my custom brackets made here. Riv nutted to the crash bar. Actually added 3. I originally had 2 mounting holes to mount this thing, and that was kind of creating a pivot point, because you can see there's a little bit of a gap right there, and that's because of the riv nut itself, the face of the riv nut, and that was making this a little bit wobbly, so I added a 3rd one. So there's now 3 bolts holding it on each side, and then 2 on each side of the heat exchanger. That's not going anywhere. So yeah, looks awesome, guys. Looks so much cleaner, and it looks like it's triple the size of the factory one. Even better, my plan with the barbs and the 2010 Camaro hose that I found worked out perfectly. I just kind of slice it up on the passenger side here. It makes this curve, put a barb right in there. This is actually the factory hose that was here. Just added the barb, just twisted this hose, kind of, and then added a barb right here, and we'll hose clamp right there. Put the factory one back there, good to go on that side. Over here, same thing, just, you know, cut up one of those hoses, and then in there, added a straight section, and then everything beyond there, you can see the metal part, that's all factory. So very, very factory. Didn't cut any of the factory lines, so we'd always go back to a stock setup if we wanted to, but man, I don't see that happening with how good this looks, and I'm positive it's going to perform better. Also, quick tip for you guys: when you're installing a radiator or heat exchanger or condenser or whatever it is, if you care about how it looks and also just don't want to damage it, like I do in this case, when you're working on the install, cut up a piece of cardboard and tape it onto those fins. That way when you're, you know, messing around with screwdrivers and stuff, you don't accidentally nick it and put a big scratch right in the heat exchanger. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. These thin aluminum fins are extremely fragile, and no one wants to look at that when you're going down the road. So until it's permanently installed, protect it, and you'll be glad you did. I just used the box it came in. Cost nothing, and now you're protected. So do that, and your intercoolers, heat exchangers, whatever, will look perfect just looking back at you through the bumper. So what's left? We've got to get some clamps on this, fill up the system, check it for leaks. We'll probably jump the intercooler relay to make sure that there's no leaks. I now get to painstakingly replace this gasket here so that doesn't leak. Get the splitter back on the bumper, get the bumper back on the car, get everything back together. Fog light bezels back in the bumper, grill back on the bumper. Basically just put everything back together, and then we'll, you know, show you guys those headlights I got for this thing. But yeah, right now let's get back to work. Keep going. I think that was worth it. A little bit of work, but this looks incredible. Got the front end of the car completely back together. Wheels are back on. Wheel well liners all hooked back up. More importantly, front bumper is fully back assembled. Got our lip back on there. Looks so much better than it did. The fog light bezels look brand new. Everything kind of matches like black, like it just came out of the mold. Same thing with the grill up here. Looks so much better than that ratty old faded crap that was there before. And boom, look at that heat exchanger. Looks so sweet compared to the rusty, crappy thing that was there before. The whole front end just looks mean. That's how Terminator's supposed to look. Got my lines all hooked up. Everything's tucked up in the bumper, no leaks. Painstakingly replaced the 12-bolt gasket on my intercooler tank here. Even added a little silicone just to make sure that this thing doesn't leak. Refilled the coolant, bled the cooling system by jumping the intercooler pump relay, which I need to put back. And yeah, we are good to go. No leaks, and it looks awesome. So there's only two things missing. One, obviously the headlights, which I got right here. And these came into my LMR shipment like 2 or 3 months ago, and I've been so excited about these things. And here's why. Just peel this back, give you guys a little bit of a peek here. So most of you are probably saying, hey, those look just like any other black housing 99 to 04 Mustang headlights. And you're mostly correct, except these ones have a gloss black housing, just like the factory 2001 to 2004 Mustangs did. Almost all of the online, like aftermarket black housing headlights out there. You go on eBay, I've done this before. There's even an eBay seller out there that's using my picture of my red old car. I've ordered from them. They didn't even give me a discount, didn't ask to use my picture, whatever, it's on the internet. I get them, they're a matte black housing. And you can't tell from eBay pictures. And I've ordered a ton of sets for these cars. They're always matte black. Finally found out that LMR is selling a set that is truly representative of the factory 01 to 04 headlights for these things with the gloss black housings. And to me, it makes a huge deal in the front of the car. So these are the move for these cars, in my opinion. Factory looking. If you don't want to spend $1,000 on a mint set of factory ones, these are a pretty good repop. Just really, really nice looking with the gloss black housing. So we'll pop those in. Also, we get to do something about our lucky Cobra that has been chilling on the bumper up here. And most of you guys probably already know, or maybe some of you didn't, the Cobras did not come with a Cobra in the grill here. They actually came with the running horse, like most of the Mustangs did. Common mod for the Cobras, obviously, is to put the snake in the grill, which is fine. I personally like the horse and the snake. Reason I ordered a new snake for the grill is because it was cheaper. It was like 20 bucks for a new one. Unfortunately, the company that I ordered it from shipped it to Georgia, so I was out scouring my property looking for this thing when it was delivered, when it said it was delivered, and turns out I checked the tracking number, they delivered it to Georgia. So they're sending me a new one, but it's not going to be here for a few days, so I put a quick coat of paint on our lucky guy here. And by paint, I mean I just, quickly painted the bracket. The snake itself still could use a little bit of help, but I glued it back onto this thing here. And for now, that'll complete our front end till my brand new one comes in a day or two, and then we can fully call this front end done. Also dug through my endless light bulb and fog light bulb and random bulb bucket there. Was able to find some LED corner markers there. And amber is the key word there. I really don't like clear side markers or clear lights where they're supposed to be amber. So that's going to be a nice touch, getting the ambers back on the side of the housings there. Found some matching fog light bulbs. They're just regular halogen. They'll do for now. I thought I might have some LED ones, but can't find them. And then these are whatever was in those other lights, but I think they both match. So those will be good. I don't know if these come with bulbs. Nope. So we'll just use those. But yeah, let's get our lucky snake back in the grill, get our brand new OEM style headlights into their headlight buckets there, give this thing a quick wipe down, get it back on the ground, and this front end is going to be transformed. I can't wait to see it. So let's bring this thing through the finish line, get this done. had a whole thing recorded just now where I was pulling the car back in the driveway and had to like go back like 4 times and get speed because we were stuck in the driveway. The car kept kicking sideways and it didn't record, so awesome. Anyways, I think that's just about gonna do it for this video, guys. With just a couple of parts and some elbow grease, we have completely transformed the front end of this car. It's kind of hard to see the camera out there, so hopefully the lighting wasn't too bad. It's early in the morning, next day, guys, but the front end just really came together. 2 OEM style headlights, refinished the chin spoiler, refinished the fog light bezels, refinished the center grille there, installed a completely custom heat exchanger, which not only looks awesome, but I think it's gonna help our performance and intake air temps a little bit as well. Refinished our old Lucky Cobra there, even though I got a new one that's going to be in the mail in the next day or 2. And just gave this thing its first bath in God knows how many years. And this thing is already looking so much better. But if you guys know me, we're just getting started on the exterior transformation on this thing. But man, it is great to see it finally coming together, at least a little bit anyways. But man, that Sonic Blue, just can't. Love it. Anyways, guys, thank you guys as always for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Catch you in the next one.